Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin now checking our headlines. Bolivia demanded the de facto government to report detailed supplies brought to battle COVID-19. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas announced the withdrawal of his country from the agreements reached with Israel and United States. United States records 1,536 deaths in a single day, reaching almost 92,000 cases, according to the Johns Hopkins University. We begin with our news, so you stay with us. The Office of the Ombudsman in Bolivia demanded the de facto government of Yanine Áñez to provide details of the purchases of artificial respirators for patients with COVID-19. The Office of the Ombudsman requested to a series of ministries to investigate and supervise the purchase of 170 artificial respirators. According to the institution, there is a lack of transparency in the information provided by the authorities regarding the characteristics of the equipment purchased. And Brazil registered 1,179 coronavirus deaths in the past 24 hours. The health ministry said this Tuesday its worst daily toll yet in the hardest hit Latin American country. The overall death toll now stands at 17,971, according to health authorities. New infections in the past 24 hours totaled 17,408, bringing the total to 271,628 infections. Still, experts warn that the peak is not expected until early June. On Monday, Brazil jumped from 6th to 3rd place in the world in numbers of known infections, behind only the United States and Russia. In Colombia, relatives and friends attended to the burial of environmental and social leader José Enrique Aramis Vasquez after his assassination in the Valle del Cauca.
We are in pain. The family is in pain. Everybody has felt the loss. I wanted to say so much about him, but right now all I can say is that Enrique was a marvelous man who was taken from us. We only wish for justice.
The Nicaraguan Health Minister Marta Reyes this Tuesday provided an update on the coronavirus outbreak in the country.
We have provided care and responsibility monitored to 54 Nicaraguans with COVID-19, either confirmed cases or probable cases. In the same way, 45 people who were under responsible and careful surveillance have completed the established period. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have provided care and responsibly monitored 470 people. We continue working to provide care to Nicaraguan families. Most of the confirmed COVID-19 cases under responsible and careful surveillance have several comorbidities. The most frequent is diabetes mellitus, arterial hypertension, heart disease, immunodeficiency syndrome, chronic kidney insufficiency, morbid obesity, antecedents of cerebrovascular accidents, pulmonary tuberculosis, and chronic lung diseases. This week, there were 9 deaths due to COVID.
Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno has announced new economic measures in order to mitigate the economic crisis brought upon by the COVID-19 pandemic. Among these is a $4 billion budget cut in public spending.
150,000 Ecuadorians have lost their jobs because companies have closed down. Ecuador has never experienced such a difficult situation due to the pandemic. Ecuador is losing $8 billion in revenues and with a $4 billion deficit of the general state budget. This amounts to a total of $12 billion lost for the country. Since the beginning of my term, we have closed down the embassies of Algeria, Nigeria, Belarus, Ethiopia, and Angola. Now we will close down another 5 embassies, such as for the countries of Malaysia, Iran, and Nicaragua. And we also closed the offices of the representation of the International Civil Aviation Organization and the Secretary of the Andean Parliament.
Ecuador's National Assembly has provided 2 economic law projects that would allegedly respond to the crisis caused by COVID-19. However, social organizations are mobilizing to reject these law projects as, according to them, they severely harm workers' rights. Let's find out more on the following story.
The National Assembly has approved the so-called humanitarian assistance law that permits individual agreements between employers and workers, including the reduction of salaries by up to 55%, total control of vacation time by employers, reduces Social Security contributions, among other issues. Lawmakers who voted in favor of the measure say they will protect jobs.
This is not a permanent law. It was created due to the current situation. When things go back to normal, we'll have to see how to regulate this law. But what we want to do is to decrease the number of layoffs and protect jobs.
Nonetheless, opposition lawmakers have warned this law severely violates workers' rights.
This law hurts workers. This law has absolutely nothing that makes it humanitarian. It may be humane to the elite, to tax havens, but it's the opposite to workers. Given how much this reverts many rights, our party will take this law to the Constitutional Court, so it can be deemed unconstitutional.
Across the country, worker and student unions mobilized to oppose these austerity measures, even demanding the immediate resignation of Finance Minister Richard Martinez.
We have called on social organizations to oppose these neoliberal austerity measures, which stand against the rights of workers as well as our children.
Students are once again on the streets to demand the resignation of the finance minister for his continued cuts to the education budget, despite the fact there's a ruling by the Constitutional Court that deems such budget cuts illegal. We also stand in solidarity with workers and reject these economic laws.
Various social and political organizations have suggested alternatives to confront the crisis, including special contributions by large economic groups or collecting overdue tax payments, which amount to around $1.5 billion. But the government has so far ignored most proposals.
Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura Peterson. We'll be right back with more news. We are back with our news. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas announced on Tuesday that his country withdraws from all agreements with Israel and the United States. The Palestine Liberation Organization and the State of Palestine are absolved as of today of all the agreements and understandings with the US and Israeli governments and of all the obligations based on these understandings and agreements, including the security ones. The president declared at an emergency meeting held in Ramallah. The announcement comes in response to plans by Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu to annex Jewish settlements in the West Bank that were outlined in the so-called deal of the century proposed by US President Donald Trump and announced in the month of January.
Israel has to uphold responsibility before the international community as the occupying power in the occupied land of Palestine, with the entire commitments according to Geneva Convention on 1949. We hold the U.S. administration fully responsible for the operation of the Palestinian people, as it is a major partner of the occupation government in all the oppressive decisions and measures against our people.
And the first United Arab Emirates flights to Israel carrying coronavirus aid for Palestinians was seen on the tarmac at Abu Dhabi airport. The United Arab Emirates flew its first publicly announced flight to Israel on Tuesday carrying medical aid to the Palestinians coping with coronavirus pandemic, Etihad Airways said. The company also flew a humanitarian cargo flight between Abu Dhabi and Tel Aviv, a company spokesman said. In Africa, the number of COVID-19 cases has risen to 88,000, with Northern Africa as the worst impacted by the pandemic. The African Center for Disease Control and Prevention informed in its latest reported numbers COVID-19 infections and death, which stands at 88,172 and 2,835 respectively. So far, COVID-19 in Africa has extended to 54 countries of the continent, with a death rate of 3.4% of the total cases. South Africa continues to have the highest number of infections and deaths, with over 16,000 confirmed cases and 286 deaths. Burundians will cast their ballots this Wednesday in general elections despite coronavirus outbreak, which is said to be the first major challenge for the new president. President Pierre Nkurunziza, who has been in power since 2005, decided to step aside 5 years after a controversial third-term run plunged his country into political and economic crisis. Burundi has pushed forward with the vote at all costs, with crowds attending political rallies with only buckets of water and soap available as a nod to the virus. The country has so far officially recorded only 24 cases and 1 death from the virus, but doctors and opposition accuse the government of hiding the true extent of the outbreak.
Tomorrow at 6 a.m., the elections will begin because we already have all the materials we need for the elections to run smoothly. We are all set and we ask people to come early.
Really, if we look at how everything is going, we can see that there will be no problems because people are ready to arrive in time for the elections to go well.
On the occasion of Eid al-Fitr, volunteers in Algeria sprayed disinfectant at the Abu Hanifa Ennoumein Mosque in Algiers as part of a national campaign to disinfect places of worship. The holiday will be affected this year as nations around the world take measures to curb the coronavirus pandemic, including outdoor festivals and other events. Meanwhile, Algeria will increase curfew hours during the Muslim Eid al-Fitr holiday that marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan. Algeria has reported 7,377 confirmed COVID-19 cases with 561 deaths.
Today, we are disinfecting the mosque as a preventive measure before it is opened to the faithful after Eid al-Fitr, to make sure that the first people coming in here are assured that it has been cleaned, and also to avoid contamination of the faithful.
We started disinfecting the mosque because of the epidemic ahead of Eid al-Fitr, in order to avoid catching this disease, and we ask God to get rid of this epidemic.
The Democratic Republic of the Congo gradually restarted economic activities after more than a month of confinement to avoid the spread of the novel coronavirus. The people have demonstrated their approval for the lifting of some measures imposed by the government to battle COVID-19. Among the activities that will resume operations are the country public transportation system and hair salons, both that were affected after the freezing of local economy. Other businesses such as bars and restaurants will remain closed. And Benin held local elections this Sunday despite the coronavirus pandemic in an effort to protect voters. The Electoral Commission and other partners put hand sanitizers in polling stations, and voters were obligated to wear face masks. Let's find out more on the following story.
This is the Abomoye Kalavi polling station in Benin's capital, Cotonou. Despite the threat posed by the coronavirus in the West African nation, voters have come out to cast their ballots as they seek to exercise their choice in local leaders. To them, COVID-19 is just but one of many problems that they want to be addressed.
I live in Cotonou. Our commune needs a mayor who can fulfill the desires of citizens. We dream of building infrastructure such as markets, roads and many others, so that Cotonou becomes a major player in the sub-region.
What we can expect from our elected representatives is development of Cotonou, our capital. I will still like the problems we have, especially flooding, social problems and development problems, to be a top priority of the elected representatives.
In an effort to minimize the spread of the virus, the Electoral Commission and other partners have put hand sanitizers at strategic points. Voters are also wearing face masks.
I would like to thank the Autonomous National Election Commission, SENA, not to say the government, which did everything possible to ensure that the vote was held without contamination by the coronavirus. The vote this Sunday, May 17th, will not be an open door to the spread of COVID-19.
Up to 5.4 million registered voters cast their ballot. The voter turnout is still considered a little lower than expected. 5 political parties are battling it out as they seek to control over 1,800 municipalities across the country. As the vote counting gets underway, the West African nation awaits the outcome.
With this information, we go for another break. You stay tuned with us. We'll be right back. We are back with our news. United States recorded 1,536 deaths caused by the new coronavirus over the past 24 hours, according to Johns Hopkins University. This brings the total number of deaths to 91,845, the highest in the world. In addition, more than 1.5 million cases of infections have also been recorded. United States is expected to surpass 113,000 deaths caused by the new coronavirus in mid-June, according to predictive models published this Tuesday. Asian Pacific countries are still facing a growing outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. India, for example, on Tuesday became the 11th country in the world in terms of infections to surpass the 100,000 mark. The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in India on Tuesday reached 101,139 after the death toll rose to 3,163, according to the latest data released by the Federal Health Ministry. Bangladesh announced 1,251 new cases on Tuesday, taking its total to 25,121, and 21 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours, bringing the death toll to 370. The Indonesian government confirmed 486 new positive cases, bringing the total number of infections to 18,496. The Philippines Health Department on Tuesday reported that 224 new infections, bringing the total to 12,942. In Malaysia, they outpaced recoveries for a second day in a row after another 37 new cases were reported, pushing the national total to 6,978 cases. In the Maldives, the number of confirmed cases has risen to 1,106, state media reported. South Korea reported 13 more new cases, raising the total number of infections to 11,078. Australia official COVID-19 death toll reached 100 on Tuesday, officially recorded 7,065 infections, and of those, 6,389 have recovered. Myanmar has risen to 191, with 3 more confirmed cases reported on Tuesday, and the death toll stands at 6. Lesotho's Prime Minister Thomas Thabane has resigned, ending a month-long crisis that engulfed the kingdom after he was accused of playing a conspirational role in the murder of his estranged wife. Thabane, who has denied any involvement, said he was retiring due to his old age.
My fellow countrymen and women, I appear before you today to announce that the work that you had assigned me may not yet be over, but the time to retire from the great theater of action and take leave from public life and office.
And Southern Africa's regional bloc urged member states to support Mozambique in fighting militias with suspected links to the Islamic State terrorist group in the natural gas-rich north of the country. President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe, who shared a summit including the leaders of Botswana, Zambia and Mozambique, cited a growing risk of religious extremism and radicalism in southern Africa, threatening peace and security. The meeting, under the auspices of the Southern African Development Community Defense and Security Organ, was to assess the security situation in Mozambique. Little is known about the insurgents, though initial attacks were claimed by a group known as Alu Suna Wahama. But more recently, Islamic State terrorist group has claimed a number of attacks which security officials have struggled to contain.
The threat of terrorism has, in the past decade, assumed greater proportions. SADC region is equally affected by this growing risk of violent religious extremism, radicalization, and terrorism.
The terrorism you can't fight alone everywhere. This is the experience that we have. We needed to share the forces, not only in region, for Africa, for all way.
And this Tuesday, Syrian Arab Army officials denounced the discovery of a large arsenal of US and Israeli-made weapons in the province of Daraa and Al-Awaidah. The army also confirmed that the weapons belong to terrorist groups operating in the region. This was part of operations of the Syrian Arab Army in the liberated areas previously under the control of irregular groups. Among the weapons found are Israeli missiles, US anti-tank missiles, as well as machine guns, precision rifles, grenades, and RPG projectiles. Like this, with this information, we come to the end of the news brief. Of course, you can find this and more information on our website, closerenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and update yourself about the latest figures related to COVID-19 around the world. The invitation is made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. Until next time, thank you for watching.